Hey folks, and welcome back to another one of these tested production videos. My name is Joey Fameli, and as you are probably aware, things are a little bit different at the moment. The tested family has now left the studio. We are staying inside, staying in our homes, safe distance from each other. But content continues. We will all be shooting stuff from our home offices, our garages, our little home sets to bring you content. And because of that, I wanted to change up the flavor and style of what this video is. Usually I talk about that professional gear that we're using, that we've got to test in the field a bunch. But here I wanted to talk about how we're setting up these home studios, these home offices. I've been doing this for a little while now. I work somewhat remotely, so I've been setting up my own little garage office studio space for quite a while now. And I operate the camera myself and shoot myself. So I wanted to give you guys a look into how I do that, and also some recommendations on gear that you can get, whether it be this stuff or budget-friendly picks that you can do for your own videos if you decide to shoot yourselves while you are sheltered in place at the moment. So let's get into this. Some of the stuff will look familiar. The camera, for example, is the GH5. I've been using the GH5 forever. I made a full tested video about it. I love this camera. It is a 4K mirrorless camera. I upload and edit in 1080, but the 4K gives me the ability to do this. I can punch in for emphasis or some kind of dramatic effect, but I usually just frame for what I do, and then I use that as some leeway. It has autofocus. This GH5 has questionable autofocus. As you can see, it's set right now to face autofocus detect, so we'll see how good this handles this setup, but it should be okay. I'm relatively stationary, not moving around too much, not too much stuff going on. As far as other cameras go, the other guys will be using their DSLR or mirrorless cameras. There's some Canons. I know Adam's gonna be using an iPhone. iPhone is just fine for a lot of things. Camera sensors have all gotten pretty good at this point. So if you have access to some kind of camera, it probably has video modes if it's been made in the last 10 years or so. Or if you're shooting on your iPhone, I have some tips and recommendations on how you can rig that up as well to be somewhat of a studio camera, to give you audio, to give you some flexibility there. From there, we'll go into lights. So lighting's a tricky one. So I have some quasar tubes that I use, these lightweight fluorescent tubes that have just a great wraparound. I use those quite a bit, and especially because they're so small, I can fit them in a tight space. This garage is a relatively tight space. So I use that sometimes as my key light, and I also use the Aperture 120 and 200D. I've done videos on these as well. They are a pretty good product. They're relatively inexpensive, especially for production stuff, and they get a lot of power. And what I tend to do for most videos is I tend to shoot through grid cloth or shoot through some kind of silk. And this tip will work for if you just have, when I first started this, I had shop lights from Home Depot that I just blew through. They're very hard lights, but you blow them through some silk, or even if you have like a bed sheet, a white bed sheet, hang that thing up. Windows work well too. If you have available light or natural light, there are ways to control that with bed sheets or with little diffusion tricks. But yeah, the quasar tubes, the apertures, those lights I think are very affordable and will be reliable and consistent if you intend to do this a lot longer. I also use practicals. I love practicals on my sets, especially like in shot. So I got some practical lights back there, and I got a fluorescent that's been gelled to chill out its natural greenness. And I tend to use, I wasn't gonna talk about this, but I should. I tend to use, so those lights behind me, and a lot of like house bulbs that you use, if you have a lamp that you just turn on, sometimes it'll flare out the camera, it'll be too bright, can't control it. You can dim it a little bit, but it'll still give some flares. But I tend to use, well, I can't find it at the moment, but I will probably find it by the time I shoot this coverage. It's this stuff. This is Doline Spray. This is a very cheap, like $7 spray that you just spray onto your light bulb, and it dulls it down quite a bit and helps reduce flare-ups, and also just helps control the spread of the light. These things were real gnarly, real kind of ugly in terms of the light quality that they sent out, and it just gave, it was kind of distracting in the lens. So I sprayed some Doline Spray on it and chill them out a bit. You can do that with any practical light. You can just wipe it off after you're done. It's really non-destructive material. So those are my lights, and I even recommend something like a paper lantern. You can buy these things on Amazon for dirt cheap on all different sizes. Again, you want a large source if you really want something flattering and something to give you a little bit of freedom. So buy a large one, throw a big bright photo bulb in there, and hang that thing up, turn it on, and you have a very nice light. You have options there when it comes to light. You don't need to have these really expensive studio lights. You can play around. Going from lights, we have, we'll talk about audio gear. I use a Sennheiser mic. This is a wireless Sennheiser pack. I actually reviewed this on the site like years and years ago, but I still use it. It's pretty pricey, but it is the perfect mic for one person productions because of all the automated functions it has. It doesn't really require you to check channels and listen for any kind of interference. It auto selects the cleanest channel and links itself up that way. It also has some auto gaining functions, so if things are getting too hot, it'll kind of dip down a little bit and keep your audio relatively clean in a clean space. And it has batteries that can be charged via micro USB. You can use what the rest of the guys use quite a bit, and I've used these quite a bit too. They're these little Tascam recorders / lavalier mics. So whereas this, I have a transmitter, I have the mic running down to a pack. I'm transmitting to the receiver that's on the camera with the shoe that takes in the audio. So that means my signal's being thrown over there and recorded into the card that's recording this video. However, these Tascams have micro SD cards in them. It'll allow you to record on the pack here, throw it in your pocket, and have your lavalier mic on you. That way, you're not going to deal with any kind of wireless interference because there is no wireless there. You can't really monitor your audio, but again, if you just check your levels and then throw that thing on, hit record, you should be good to go. And they're actually, the quality is pretty nice. They're relatively inexpensive, a lot less expensive than the Sennheisers or the Sony mic packs that we use. And they're great all around mics when you need to just throw an extra mic on somebody. But you don't have the inputs on the cameras and stuff. So we use them in the professional capacity, but they are there for everybody, and the price point is very attractive. The other option is you can use an on-camera mic, not the on-camera mic that's on there, but you can buy. I have a couple Sennheisers and a Rode. These are more what you'll see in like the vlogging world. They're microphones that sit on the camera. And because of that, you're going to need to get that camera a little bit closer. My camera is about 10 feet away from me, mainly because my space is so small. I need to compress that. I need to use longer lenses and compress that space. And so with that microphone, if I was to use that, I would need to get that thing pretty close to me and use wider lenses and you need to be able to see a lot more. In my experience, they're actually pretty good sounding. Now, audio is a really important thing, especially when it comes to like home videos. You can make a really funky looking video at your house, and if the audio is bad, people are going to tend to perceive that as a much lower production quality than if the audio was super clean, if that makes sense. So audio is very, very important. I don't want to understate that as far as people's perception of your production quality, but also just the tolerability, the tolerance of someone watching your video. If you got strong audio, you're golden. Sets. So again, this is my garage and it's very small. And you just kind of have to use what you got. Again, I know that it's very ugly on this out here, so I use a longer lens to compress that space. And then when I shoot coverage, I kind of change up the shot a little bit to make it look like I have multiple sets. But really, it's all in the same 6-foot square area. What else? Editing. I use Adobe Premiere Pro. We all use Adobe Premiere Pro. I've tested it as our editing software platform of choice. I love it. I also really like DaVinci Resolve, and this is a totally free program. I use it for color grading specifically, but it has audio mixing, color grading, and editing. And if you're thinking about trying out editing and you're not an editor, I always tell people to start there because the language of their editing platform is very similar to what you'll find in Avid and Adobe, and you'll get a sense of if you really like it. And if you want to step up your game, then you can get the Adobe Premiere Pro subscription license. But let's go back to iPhone because I did mention about production using iPhones. We're going to be doing a number of things using like Bluetooth headsets as the mic. But going back to the Tascam, if you're going to use an iPhone, I recommend you get in that Tascam mic because you're not going to have your mic input options are going to be rather limited. And then buying something like this, a little Joby Gorilla Pod, and then a little iPhone attachment. With this, with the iPhone sitting there, you can wrap this thing around whatever. If you're doing shop videos with time lapses, that's great. Or if you can do the whole vlog setup and throw your phone there, and with your Tascam, you'll have very clean audio, and you'll have source audio for syncing up on your iPhone. Yeah, that's my setup. So thank you guys for checking out this video, and thanks for bearing with us as we transition into this house style. everything I talked about will be in the links below if you want to check that out. And if you have any recommendations on things you want to see more of, I know field testing will be a little bit light for us as we can't get out and try these things. But if there's stuff in the past you wanted to see us talk about, or I don't know, anything video camera related or production related, or just stuff in general, feel free to throw those suggestions below, or shoot me a note on Twitter and I will try to get back to you. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.